Good morning. And welcome to No Apologies, Please. I'm your host, Greg Meriweather. Man, it's gonna be a good day today. Crazy weekend. I think I had a great weekend. Kind of uneventful, but a lot has been going on over the weekend. I've received. Thank you for everyone who has reached out to me with information about things that go on in the city. For those of you who watch in other places, I'm live in the city of Indianapolis. Um, and so I get a lot of information from people in the city of Indianapolis about, whatever is going on in the city. So thanks to anybody who has sent me some stuff. Um, Share how your weekend has been. First of all, I want to know that. And then Campbell Soup, good morning. Des Tinley, good morning. Um, and so I'm working on something. For those of you who are in Indianapolis, I did talk to constables, Center Township Constable Denise Hatch. For those of you who know about what's going on in the city, Constable Hatch has been in the news quite a bit. From having issues with people who she's employed. I know that one of her officers, if that's what we want to call them, was arrested. He was an officer who was not legally, who did not have the legal right to carry a weapon. And then they had the issue where she was just arrested. And it's a plethora of different charges that she was facing. But I talked to Sister Hatch. Let me make sure I pull this up. So I talked to Sister Hatch on Sunday, and she has stated that she wants to be on the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work to have Sister Hatch on the show tomorrow morning so that we can get her side of the story. It's unfortunate that, we get clips. We get a lot of clips from the news. We get a lot of people saying a lot of things, and people could be placed in a certain light. But here at No Apologies, Please, we want to give people the platform to be able to tell their side of the story without having mainstream media put whatever it is they want to put on it. We'll get to the bottom of it so that we can talk to Sister Hatch. So be looking for that tomorrow. I think that we also are looking to have Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears on the show. We're going to talk to Ryan about whatever is going on in the community as it relates to the prosecutor's office. We just had a case with a law enforcement officer where a law enforcement officer was killed on the scene, and the young man who took her life was just on trial. He was found guilty. He was found guilty, but with guilty with mental illness. And basically, from my perspective, being found guilty with a mental illness pretty much probably won't come with prison time. It will come with being put in a possible mental institute of some sort. Thinking about that case, it's a very difficult case. Good morning, Bishop Kim Graves. Good morning, Michelle Brown. Thank you all for being on. It's a difficult case when you think about this. I was around a group of individuals, and we listened to the verdict, or we listened to the verdict from the judge. And when the young man was found guilty with a mental illness, it was a lot of mixed emotion. And the sad part about with having all the mixed emotion is the fact that you see that it's almost like we've been trained to prosecute ourselves in a different way. In that, and my heart goes out to that family. When I see it's us against us. It's such a lose-lose for our community, because if this young man, I have no idea what's going on in his head. I have no idea what was going through his mind at the time that, it was a domestic violence. It was a domestic call. The young man knew the police was at the door, grabbed a weapon, shot in a certain direction, hit the officer, killed the officer. And then it came down to it, it was like he was pleading mentally disabled. The unfortunate part about that, I've heard from sources that the young man is they don't believe he's mentally disabled. And then you have the situation with the family of the lost officer. And let me say this: I really wish, I really wish we would be better agents of afterthought. Taking the consequence and putting the consequence first before we take an action that could cause us to be in a situation where we have to fight for our lives. The other thing is, with this officer, a young sister who was slain doing her job, it just hurts my heart because it's like, brother, I say this to that brother, when people are doing their jobs, it's like they're just doing their jobs. And, you know, conflict resolution is so lost in our community. We have become people who are so sensitive to the degree where we take life. And when I think about that, I think more of fear. I think about people in their fears. People have the fear of defeat. When I say this, what I mean is when people decide to do things like hurt another person, there's a defeated mentality in my mind. When people decide to kill, in my head, that person that pulls the trigger, something in them is already dead. Something in them is already gone to the point where they have no regard for another person's life. And I don't know, I know that there are a lot of programs out here in the communities all over the country that say they deal with conflict resolution. You have to, when you're dealing with conflict resolution, one of the first things we have to do is revitalize the individuals. We have to talk to individuals and understand that they are not living. Most of those people are already the walking dead. It sounds sick. It is sick. It is sad, but it's real. A lot of these people are the walking dead. They have no hope. They have no regard for their own lives. We live in a world where people believe that they can beat you up. They can beat you into being healthy. That is something that I believe is derived from slavery, where people believe that they can beat you to health. And we take our drug addicts and we talk bad about them and we're mean to them. We take our alcoholics and we talk about them and we're mean to them. We take undisciplined acts, and instead of operating with a sense of developmental love, we do everything to destroy the person. We don't embrace them. We don't say let's get you some help. We don't nurture. And then these people that go out into the street, they carry the same thing. They don't nurture. They don't say we need to talk this out. They say I've been disrespected, disregarded, suppressed, oppressed, looked over. And the minute someone does something that may deem them being embarrassed, let's be real. One of the biggest things that happen in the Black community is when somebody feels embarrassed, whether they took an L, they had a fight, they did not come out on the winning end, and the people in the middle, that group in the middle, the people who saw it, are generally the antagonizers of death. And all of a sudden they say everything about everything to make that person feel a certain way. Most people tell people to retaliate. Most people talk bad about the one that they believe lost, hold the one that they believe won in high regard until someone does something that's detrimental, and then we look and act like blood is not on our hands. So for this sister, going back to the case, we had a lose-lose in that case. A young man who's now, whether he be in a mental institute, he is still going to be in what I would believe a prison, not necessarily a corrections facility, but somewhere where he's going to be in pretty much gone for the remainder of his time. And the family has lost a daughter, a sister, a mother, an aunt, possibly, who knows, a niece. And I just want us to understand, just through that case that we just saw, that we have to be better agents of protecting our minds, conflict resolution, and not beating up people who are struggling with something. Everybody's got something. And just because yours doesn't show doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I just want us to really think on that. So moving forward, man, we had I've heard the information about our former president, Donald Trump, and he was at a convention. Um, he was at a convention, and he said some comments that have pretty much made it heavily to the news. And so I want to let's look at these comments. These I think I brought up a clip from CNN. Let's look at these comments that former President Trump said, and then we're gonna chime in on on these comments. So let's check this out.
Pastor Mark Burns. Mark, where are you? Where's Mark Burns? He's a great guy. Good. These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. You see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? We've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts and they sell them for $19 a piece. It's pretty amazing. Pastor Mark Burns.
So when we look at this, I want us to just think about just the the sheer gall of Donald Trump saying this. So first of all, I'm like, who are the people? Who are the people who were clapping? It is a mockery to even have this man dare to speak like that. Now, and let me say this. No, I'm going to stick to this. It's a mockery to have him there, to allow him to speak this way. Only saying I see black faces is sick. It makes me upset because one, it's like, and shout out to Politico, that was a Politico clip. It just, why are we people who are party first people? We're not, when I see stuff like that and I hear people cheering, it makes me realize that we forget we're black first. And being black first, let me say this, being black first does not allow disrespect. In any way, shape, or form, it does not allow you to be disrespected. And we look at this, and it's like, and then to talk about the t-shirts, we relate to the mugshot. Yeah, honestly, we relate to the mugshot because it does happen to us. But to utilize that in your speech is ridiculous. And for people to cheer, clap, exalt, respect him simply because he is there representing their party is a sad reality in this world. And let me say why. And now I'm going to get to the point that I was going to state first. Black people have become so party first. When I look and I see what Joe Biden has said, Joe Biden, 4 years ago, when Joe Biden was running, he said, "You ain't black if you don't vote for me." As if that is a qualifier. And we rode with it. When we look at Donald Trump, he's doing the same exact thing. But I watch black people minimize blackness, minimize themselves in order to be in the good graces of a white man. And this is not saying, and what I mean by that, when disrespect is there, check it. Don't clap for it. Don't cheer for it simply because it's your party. Address it. There should have been a press conference after that. There should have been someone from that organization that said something, as opposed to people cheering. I said this a while back. I said, I remember when Biden was running and we looked at the crime bill situation. And all of a sudden we said, so what, Greg? So what, Greg Meriweather? That was in the 90s. And taking a sentence or a quote from former governor of Alabama, George Wallace, and he said, segregation then, segregation now, and segregation forever. And we don't realize that some people are like racism then, racism now, and racism forever. And instead of us being able to pull off the garb of blue or red, and instead of being able to say, you know what, I'm black first, we let it go. In the city of Indianapolis, I'll say this, in the city of Indianapolis, we have a current mayor who can run in black churches, who can go kiss black babies, who can do the Cupid shuffle, who can do the cha-cha slide, who ran commercial ads with a black family in the kitchen, passing biscuits, holding hands in prayer. The thing that was missing from the commercial was a black man. The black mother is acknowledging him being there for her son. He's at all of his games. He comes over. This is the man, and I love him for it. This happened in Indianapolis. And no one said a word. I did, of course. But no one found issue with that. The other mayoral candidate, I think he's now running for Senate. And when he shows crime, when he starts talking about a prosecutor who lets people out and then he shows criminal activity, I'm gonna say this, as tacky as it was, he at least didn't go far enough. He showed a Caucasian hand dealing drugs, but when he talked about crime, he showed the people at the border. So he was showing black and brown people. And when we realize what law and order means, yes, Tinsley on here. It's a lot of commercials out there like that. But why? And how? How do we look at this and say, this person gets my vote? This dude shucked and jived and danced. And now he's in office, and you have people who support it. I look on one of the reasons I got off of Facebook about a month ago before I came back with the show was because I was so tired of seeing us in so many different capacities that were not black. Where people get online and I'm Democrat this, I'm Republican this, I'm this with the Dems, I only deal with the Dems, all these people standing around. This one guy in the middle who happens to be the mayor of Indianapolis, the whole room is dark. The whole room is filled with us. He's in the middle. And we don't realize that we have our own form of Joe Biden and Donald Trump right in front of you every single day. Nothing great enough to make a difference for black people. Yet we are okay with it. I want to see comments. I want to see someone who says, you know what, Meriweather? You're right. You know what, Meriweather? We need to change that. You know what, Meriweather? It's like, let me say this. I watched him walk in the store, nap or nothing. Is that what it is? Nap or nothing. He walked in that store out the blue. What they do? They changed their whole profile and put him on the front of their profile page with his back to it, looking at the thing. And then I hear people say, well, I mean, what better endorsement do you want, Meriweather? They got the mayor wearing their clothes. But did they think about or nothing? The or nothings is us. The or nothing, the nap. in the Indianapolis area, that's us. That's the we're the ones failing. We're the ones losing. We're the ones that are getting exiled. We're the ones who are last in everything good and first in everything bad. And I'm just looking at us and I'm just like, why are we not so upset about him? What about your governor? Why do we look at our governor and ask questions about our governor? Did we say anything about stand your ground? Did we look and realize that we have one of the strongest stand your ground laws in the country? Did we look and realize that permitless carry, when it went to the state legislators, and the bill was put out there about permitless carry, and then he signs it? I remember being with Senator Greg Taylor talking about that coming into play, and his response was he's not going to do it. And I said, you know what? Who's impacted? Who's going to be impacted when that comes out? When that permitless carry takes place, who's going to be impacted? Black people. Who's going to be impacted when you look at stand your ground? At that time, there was no Black person in the country who had ever won a stand your ground case. Ever. And we didn't look and say, dang. I look and I see Amp Harris talking about, oh, I'm with the governor making moves. I look and see the pastors, oh, we at the governor mansion making moves, but none of y'all had the power. I watched him. I got the news about the corporate luncheon where the governor tells Tanya Bell McKenzie that when I call, no matter where you are in the country, that you need to call me or answer my call. But no one said, really? But none of them, out of all the Black people that I just named, none of them have enough influence. None of them had enough kickback. None of them had enough fight to stand up and say, hey, since I hang with you, since you want me to answer your calls, since you want me to be around, since I'm so cool with you, why can you not have this stand your ground thing, the thing that killed Trayvon Martin? Let's think on that. One of the biggest ordeals ever in this country was the fact that George Zimmerman took that kid's life on stand your ground. That all them people that I named believe they have access to the governor, but did nothing to fix it. All these people who have access to the governor believe that's their guy, but no one said, man, that's gonna kill us if you do this permitless carry thing. But we watch Donald Trump go into this room of these conservative Black people, right? And say what he said, and people cheered, people whistled, people screamed out, people yelled. And you wonder why we look so bad. You wonder why we're broken. Because there's no one there that says this is wrong. When you see bad commercials, I guarantee you somebody Black was in the room. When they took Michael Jackson's paraphernalia out of the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, I guarantee you somebody Black was in the room. When they didn't have Black film festivals at Newfields, I guarantee you somebody Black was in the room. Yet we're not Black first. I got a comment on here. I want to say Sherry Calvert, talking to my mother, 86 years old, said to me a few days ago, all she could truly remember is as far back as when her parents got more money for a bale of cotton because of DIMS. She said she honestly couldn't think of anything they've done since. You know, it's a sad reality when you realize that every major city filled with Black people is Democratic led. Think on that. Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, Atlanta. You think on them. You just Baltimore. You just go think on all these cities with all these Black people, with all these Black leaders that you cannot hold accountable because they're not Black first. They like the perks, man. At the end of the day, they like the perks. They like going down and being able to get a suite and sit at the Pacer game. They like being able to go to the Colts game and go to the concerts, get a little free action. And then you gotta hug, you gotta go hug certain people and bow down to certain people simply because they get the perks, but not opening doors for Black people. How much industry is coming into those cities? How much industry is coming into the cities where there are predominantly Black people? How much fight is there? And I'm not talking about industry like hotels. I'm not talking about us continuing to be indentured slaves. I'm talking about where are the organizations where Black people can walk in, be leaders? Why are we not? Why is our city not running out and saying, where's the Black hotel chain? Where's the Black grocery chain? Let's figure out how to get them to put a store in Indianapolis. Where are the initiatives? Where is the council fighting so Black people can have a foot in the city of Indianapolis and all over the country? Where are those individuals? Where are those politicians that are supposed to be the voice of the people who are in their community? If you don't know this, know this. Your counselor has to live in your community. You don't get to vote for all the counselors. You get to vote for the counselor who runs in your community. And if you realize that your community is not making moves that allow you to live a better life in this city, you need to get somebody that's not them, that's not them. When you look and your neighborhood is all of a sudden becoming gentrified, and you look and this dude, you got a whole Hallville that's called Rivers West. And for the life of me, I want to know who took that vote. I want to know who made that happen. I want to know what Black people were in the room to allow Rivers West, to allow Hallville to become Rivers West. I know who the counselor is. And I know y'all talking about making him the first Black mayor of Indianapolis. But I'm like, he's already destroying Black communities as it is. Right? He's already destroying Black communities as it is. And who's saying something? Who's saying, you know what? That brother is really not on board. Who's saying that? I want to know. I want to know who's saying it. Because I was just at a Hallville meeting, and I'm realizing that people are in the meeting and behind the scenes, certain groups of people are buying property because they got the upper hand. They know the knowledge. They're sitting in front of people in the community while making sure that they get their footing in there so that when the total gentrification comes, that they're ahead of the game. And we just don't realize that, again, people are not being Black first. We have become our own enemy. When I look and I see the death and I realize that we have become our own enemy, we don't help, we don't employ, we don't exalt, we don't protect, we don't put the right people in the right places. Most of your panels are fake simply because people want to be politically correct when they do panels. They don't want to put brilliant people who are able to speak to the illness and the success of Black people. They go get people who say the same thing over and over. They go get the people who create programs so that they can make money off the demise of Black people. Wasn't trying to do this today. But when I look at people and I look when Donald Trump saying they relate to me in the mugshot, I'm like, you got that own problem. Detroit, you got that problem. Chicago, you've got that problem. Baltimore, you've got that problem. Because you get people on board and you put people in play and you don't hold them accountable, and then you don't care that you don't see them. You don't care that you don't see your politician anymore after the election time, after the vote has been cast. You don't care if you don't see him anymore. Is the sidewalk fixed? Are the lights on? Are there businesses being placed in those old strip malls? Or are you allowing my community to run down to the ground and then you run in and take it because the property is cheap and then we get gentrified and sent out? No, they don't like me. They don't like me because I know part of the vote is holding them accountable. They're not celebrities, people. Don't let them treat you like they're celebrities. They're not celebrities, people. They're your voice. Yours. They are your voice. So the ones that walk around and don't speak to you and hold their head up high and turn their head when you say anything, check them. Say something. Say, why is this road looking like this? Why is it that I can go in certain communities and not have potholes? Why I can go in certain communities and find good produce, good stores, good grocery? Why can I go over there and crime is limited? How is it that we have you saw it with Broad Ripple. We saw it with Broad Ripple. And it was funny, if anybody remembers this, it was funny. Broad Ripple had the shootings. The Broad Ripple, that organization in Broad Ripple got together. The mayor stood with those people and they talked about making it to where they created this area where guns were not permitted in Broad Ripple, right? And then what happened was I came on live and I said, if you can do it for Broad Ripple, you can do it for Hallville. Then out comes all the vultures, the Aaron Williams and all them people that came out, and then they start getting on the news talking about, well, if you can do it for this, you can do it for Hallville. Then they wanted to become the spokesperson of what I had already said. But those are the politicians. Those are the people who play the game. But the idea was stimulated here to say, if you could make it happen, if you could say, let's remove all the guns from being over here, then you could say, let's make it to where the guns is going over there. Now, I'm not talking about disarming people, but if you're going to create a safe zone, create a safe zone. If you can do it for one, you can do it for all. I have a comment from Yvette D. Williams. She said, my streets ain't called to talk with my mayor advocate. Both numbers full, can't leave messages, texted, no return. So they've called. So what she's saying, they've called, talked to the mayor's advocates. Both numbers are full. You can't leave a message. They've texted with no return messages. Can't be mad because do y'all realize? I think there was a survey that came out some years ago, and it talked about how I think less than 3%. I want to say 3%. Less than 3% of the claims that have ever come from people getting damaged wheels or whatever, damaged cars because of potholes, have ever been taken care of. I believe it's around 3% in total. So if you make that call and your car is torn up or your wheels is torn up or your axle's broken, you can't, the chances of you getting reimbursed for the city having a hand in damaging your vehicle is like an act of God. We voted for this, people. We voted for this. We voted for someone to just totally neglect us. Dems, let me say this. I'm going to say this to the camera. Black Democrats, Try this out for 1 month. Be Black first. This is what's going to happen when you're Black first. You're going to create policies. You're going to do some good local stuff to make sure that the people who voted for you are taken care of. Be Black first. Black Republicans. For a month, be Black first. Stand up, challenge it, talk about it, go against it. Do what's necessary for your people. No, who cares if people are mad? I guarantee you, if every politician for the next, let's just say for the month of March, every Black politician took it upon themselves to say, I'm going to work my tail off for the next 30 days as relates to people who look like me. Most of you are in areas where the vote that came for you looks like you. That's how it works. So I just want us to be mindful of this. It's my rant, but be mindful of it, because when it's all said and done, we can't keep looking at the Donald Trumps of the world and say, you know what, Donald, we can say it. Donald Trump, the stuff he says, yup, he says some racist bull crap. I agree 100%. At the same time, we also got to look at the people and say, why is it that we're okay with allowing foolishness to take place? That's all I care. I want us to be cognizant of all the stuff that we allow to go on, the people we vote for, being neglected, the whole rip. I want us to take the position of saying no more. No more doing that. Which moves me to my next part. So I received a text, and it was interesting. It was an interesting read, and I want you all to get out here and go read it. I'm going to share it with you, and then we're going to discuss it. But I want you to all get out here and read it, because if it's saying what I think it's saying, we have a big problem on our hands. So let's look at this. So this is Senate Bill 202, authored by Senator Spencer Deary, Senator Jeff Ratz, and Senator Tyler Johnson, co-authored by Senator Gary Byrne, Senator Stacey Donato, Senator John Crane, and Senator Linda Rogers, sponsored by Robert Benning, Representative Michelle Davis, Representative Jake Peshka, and then Robert Heaton. And the digest says this. It said, amends the duties of state educational institutions' diversity committees, provides that certain offices or individuals established or employed by a state educational institution regarding diversity programming must include within the mission of the office or position programming that substantially promotes both cultural and intellectual diversity, establishes various requirements and restrictions for institutions regarding free inquiry, free expression, and intellectual diversity that does the following. 1, requires the establishment of certain policies regarding A, disciplinary actions for certain persons that materially and substantially disrupt protected expressive activity. B, limiting or restricting the granting of tenure or a promotion if certain conditions related to free inquiry, free expression, and intellectual diversity are not met. C, disciplinary actions that will be taken if after a review, a determination has been made that a tenured faculty member has failed to meet certain criteria related to free inquiry, free expression, and intellectual diversity. requires the review and consideration at least every 5 years of certain criteria related to free inquiry, free expression, and intellectual diversity, so on and so forth. Let me say this. If this is if this is a push to take away, I'm going to find out. The way it was presented to me is that this is a push to take away the ability of expressing racism in schools. If this is the case, we have a humongous problem on our hands. If this bill is stating that there will be a reprimand to people who basically stand up, we have a huge problem on our hands. Now, I want somebody, I'm going to reach out to some people at the State House, and I'm going to really find out about this, because the way it was presented to me is basically that racism is off the table in state institutions of education. And that cannot be. We cannot live in a place where being able to express ourselves is a problem. You know, critical race theory, how people have wanted to remove Black books, how basically, you know, they want to call slavery involuntary employment. You know, the sickening terms instead of addressing the issues as they are, as they were. You know, it's like when people get upset about their truths, they don't want us to talk about these things. And the reason that the people who have done these things to our people don't want to talk about it, because it shows them who they've been. And as people who are continuously oppressed, it shows them who they are. And we have got to fight stuff like this. We have got to make sure that Black authors who write on things, books that have been written that tell the truth about America's history, still exist. And the unfortunate part about that is slavery is American history. There's no way you can cut it. There's no way you can remove it. There's no way you can minimize it. At the end of the day, let's be real and say that slavery is American history. It just is. And I know you're mad, and I know you don't want to hear it, and I know you believe it. That I know. I know you believe it, because at the end of the day, you did it. At the end of the day, you did it. But instead of just saying, you know what? And the reason you don't want to say you did it, and the reason you want to remove it, is because when it's all said and done, you don't want to admit it. You don't even want to admit it today. You don't want to say, man, let me look up this word really quickly. I have to look at this word, because I want us to change our mentality on certain things, because when we get on board with certain words, and this is a challenge to a lot of my Juneteenth friends. Okay, this is a humongous challenge to my Juneteenth friends, because what I want you all to understand is something. Why it is so important for us to understand the meaning of some of the things that we allow to go on, that we allow to say. When we allow people to say certain things, it's just jacked up to me. Okay, so let me show y'all this really quickly, and then we'll get back to what I was saying. Hold on, I want y'all to see this, because this is a problem for me. So let me take this off. So it says emancipation, the process of giving people social or political freedom and rights. In another definition, it basically said the freedom. It says when nothing blocks you. It says when nothing blocks you from political, social, and economic progress is when you're emancipated. When nothing prohibits you from social, political, economic progress is when you're emancipated. We are still blocked socially, politically, economically. You can't have the day of freedom. You can't have Emancipation Day. And when we uphold those things, when we uphold those words, then they know that we're blocking ourselves. When we celebrate freedom, yet know we're not free, we block ourselves. Just my take. So back to the school. And I had to do that because that's school. What they teach you is not education. It's truly indoctrinated. The greatest students in the world are not the educated students. They're the greatest indoctrination. They're the greatest at being indoctrinated. You got a master's degree in indoctrination. You're a doctor of indoctrination. It's the fact. True education cannot be taught. True education must be sought. That's why you can't put everything in a book. That's why if they took a history book, just think about the size of a history book, and you wonder why it looks like this. A history book should be the size of a house if it was a real history book. If everything in it was not written to give you some bit or piece of it. But we got to be people that fight for that in the schools. So if this bill, Senate Bill 202, is real, then somebody needs to say something. So for those of you, I need y'all to reach out to your Robin Shacklefords. I need to reach out to your Greg Taylors, your Greg Porters. I need to reach out to these people and say, man, what's going on with this bill? Go get with your state legislators. Go get with your state senators. Go get with the Greg Taylors. See what's happening with this. And see, and also, and if it is this, ask him why he ain't told us about it. Ask him that. Sister Calvert on here, she said, I do not like the Juneteenth thing. For one, I feel like it was to shut us up and a federal holiday. What is the majority that's off? What's the majority that's off on that day? The laborers are at work. The most of us have jobs that aren't off work anyway. Facts. So you look and it's like Juneteenth exists, and now you have your news. Now you got people who do not look like us, who allow you to put up signs that say the day of freedom. I want y'all to just do this really quickly before we get done with this. Imagine what it looks like to people who oppress you, who watch you celebrate freedom while they know you're not. What does it look like? What does it look like to them when they say, I don't even have to fight the war? I don't even have to fight against them, because in their minds, they're blind. They're blind to their own destruction. They're blind to the fact that they're not free. They're blind to the fact that they've not been emancipated. They're dancing, they're singing, they're having parades, they're cooking. Listen, let's put it on the news. Let's build them flyers. Let's create commercials. Let's talk about it. Because as long as they're partying, they ain't complaining. As long as they're partying, they're not fighting about it. As long as they're partying, they're not looking at the laws. As long as they're partying, they're not looking for the truth. We party in their parks. We partied in Newfields. We party. We do parades in their streets. And they just watch us. And they say, man, this words, listen, y'all, I don't care what nobody tell y'all. Words matter. Words matter so much because I said this. I said this on the Landing on the Line show. I said that if if we continue to label ourselves as minorities, when you realize that if there is a minority, then there is a majority, correct? So if I label myself as minor, then I also label someone as major. And why don't we get that? I'm never minor. You're never minor. You're never minor to anyone. And for us to be the most religious people on the planet who claim to be, we want to be the original Hebrews. We want to be the children of God. Yet we go outside and call ourselves minor. It sickens me to hear a Black person say minority. We as minorities. That's like walking around saying, we the inferior people of America. We the inferior people of the world. Because that is exactly what you're saying. It says, even with that, the white female still wins. They are minority. Facts. Because the word is a play. Because the word is a play. Because they get the benefit. Let me say this. Because they could get the benefit and take that home to the majority. And what I mean, my major and minor, minority and majority never had anything to do with race. Majority and minority have everything to do with the people who are in the positions of making decisions. Facts. And when you realize that, because how can you be a minority when 90% of the world looks like you and I? Think on it. How can you be the minority when you could go to the biggest continent of the world, brown? You can go to Asia, brown. You can go to South America, brown. You could go to Central America, brown. But someone somewhere has told you that you're the minority, and you walk around acting minor. You go around acting as if you need to beg. That's why it's important to fight against things that fight against education. That's why it's important to read. That's why it's important to know. That's why it's important to get people in play that are willing to say the truth and protect them. Because they know this. When we change our minds, we change our lives. Thank you, Sister Williams. When we change our minds, we change our lives. Can't walk around here tough thinking, but believe you're inferior. It says, how do you group us with groups of people that haven't remotely suffered in the manner that we have, but fake offer us something saying? Agreed. Agreed. We got to do a better job, man. With this being said, I just want us, I said this, I do this show because I want to educate us. And I got to do this really quickly because I want y'all to go check some history because this is the last week of Black History Month. I want you guys to look at this really quickly. It's something that I saw on CBS Sunday Morning, and it was really a sad situation. It was a sad story that I read or that I had seen. And it talks about on this date, there were 13 what they call Negro soldiers executed, soldiers guilty of a Houston riot. And basically they were lynched. There was a riot in Houston during this time, and it was a bunch of soldiers, Black soldiers, and I think it was maybe during the time of I believe they said it was 1917. And when I saw this, it really saddened me because it was the largest murder trial in U.S. history. 63 Black soldiers were put on trial. 13 were executed. That makes me sad. 13 were executed. And the person who represented them in the army was not even an attorney. Everybody who sat on the panel for their for this case was Caucasian male. These are the things that this, going back to this educational piece, these are the things that America does not want us to know about her. That 63 Black men were placed on trial for a riot. And the way the riot started, it was like someone just simply yelled out that basically we need to do something with these people. And the crazy thing is that they weren't thinking about these brothers being trained. and it was like they weren't from the South. They took these brothers, I believe, from another city up north, and then brought them to the South. But I just want y'all to check out that story, man. Look it up. Just look up the 63 soldiers who were placed on trial in Houston. I think it's a horrific story, but these are the stories that need to be told, because I want us to understand that you're still dealing with the same tyranny. You're still dealing with the same tyranny in America, but we just got to be better agents of knowing what we're dealing with. If you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. If you don't know where you've been, it's hard to know where you're going. And I just want us to be better agents of knowing who we are. I want to be better agents of knowing what we've been through, because then we deal with it differently today if we know it. Teach your children our history. It's very, very important. So there's a film on Amazon telling the story called 24th. So I want y'all, I'm going to go look that up. Thank you, Camille, for putting that out there. I really appreciate that. And Sister Sonia said, and their guilty verdict, yes, their guilty verdict was just overturned last year. A lot of the soldiers that were placed in that cemetery did not have anything on there, just their name and just the date of their death. And now I believe that those coffins or those headstones have been changed to basically, show their life per se. And so with that said, man, let's get to our verse of the day. It comes from Psalms, the 56th chapter, and it is the 3rd verse. And it says, what time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. Verse 4 says, in God I will praise his word. In God I have put my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do to me. And I want you to understand, I will not fear what flesh can do to me. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I have to live. I have to live. I have to be real. I cannot look upon the world and say, it's okay. I'm scared enough to live on my knees. I'm scared enough to not do anything that could help someone I may not see. I have no fear. When it's all said and done, I live my life in a way that says, I respect who God is. I respect God to the degree where I no longer allow man to determine how I stand up. You can take from me. You can blast my name. You can be the meanest, most vile person that you want to be. But at the end of the day, know that you're dealing with a fearless person. And I want us to become those people who operate at a level that is not fearful. If you believe that God exists, and if you believe he has all the power, if you believe that he's in control, then what sense does it make for you to be scared? Don't be scared. There's nothing that can happen that's not supposed to. You are where you're supposed to be. And when it's time to go, ain't nothing you can do about it. So stand on it. Be those people. We are those people. This has been your brother, man. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you share the page. If you know anybody that you believe should be on No Apologies, please send us an email at blackonblackllc@gmail.com. Our Cash App to support this show is Cash App No Apologies, please. Make sure we're sharing, man. Do what's great. if when people ask me this question, they say, how can I help? How can I support? Here's what I say all the time. Share the voice. Share the words. If you know that no one else is going to do it, if you know no one else is going to say it, do me a favor. Let me say it. And the only way you can really do that is by sharing what I say. I appreciate you all support. We're going to see if we can get Denise Hatch on the show tomorrow morning. We're supposed to have Ryan Mears this week, and I believe we're supposed to have Whitley Yates also to come up on the show. So man, be looking for that. This has been your brother on No Apologies, Please. I appreciate the love. Have a great one. Peace.